राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा. So thank you all for joining in. Quickly, let's jump into our prayer session. We will start with one round of chanting with His Divine Grace. Avecharnaravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let's chant with Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshchaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nidhi Namne Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे, जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा,
श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाकाचार्य स्तोत्रशत जवेंद्र सभी शरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गंगा मैया की जय, यमुना मैया की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, दुर्गा महारानी की जय, सामित भक्त वृंद की जय, कलियुग पतित पावन हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर नदीप धाम की जय, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, अनंत कोटि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय, कलियुग पतित पावन हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे. So we are starting with the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as our next recitation after the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. After this we will do Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, prayers by Lord Brahma. And then we will go on to the study of this. We will sing those two beautiful songs, right? Chaura Ashtakam and Yugala Ashtakam. And then we will read the perfection of yoga by His Divine Grace, Abhijadnaranda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Finally, we will end with the grand culmination, which is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Sankirtan along with the devotees. That's called Sankirtan, because we are singing loudly in the association of devotees with musical instruments. Like at least we will have the kartal. So like that we will sing and then we'll end our session. All right, so let's move on to a Bhagavad Gita recitation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Urvamulam Adaha Shakam Ashwatam Pravyayam. Chandansi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid. अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसितास्तस्य शाखा गुणा प्रवृद्धा विषया प्रवालाः अधश्च मूलाननुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धी मनुष्यलोके रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते नातो न चादे न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा ततः पदं तत्परिमार्गितव्यम् यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूयः तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्ति सता पुराणी निर्माणमोहाजितसङ्गदोषा अध्यात्मनित्या निवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वै विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसंज्ञैर्गच्छन्त्यमूढा पदमव्ययं तत् न तद्भाष्यते सूर्यो न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूता सनातनः मनः स्थानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रमतीश्वरः ऋत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयत् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्तं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढा नानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितं यतन्तोऽपि कृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्ति चेतसः यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भाषेते किलं यच्चन्द्रामसि युच्छाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम् गामविश्या च भूतानि धारयामहमोजसा पुष्णामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधम् सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्च अक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि भूतस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेति उदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य बिभर्त्यव्य ईश्वरः यस्माक्षरम् अतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमः यो मामेवम् असम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद् मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदम् उक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत. Translations by His Divine Grace, Abhishanarthi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is a knower of the Vedas. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruit of actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. There, surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything is extended since time immemorial. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender to the Supreme Person in order to attain that kingdom, and they attain to that eternal kingdom. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. The living entities in this conditional world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Like we were discussing about Ambarish Maharaj. He was engaging all of his senses in the service of the Lord. So he was deriving pleasure, or he was enjoying by glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is real bliss. Otherwise, whatever enjoyment we have by by doing all these mundane things, all that will create only frustration. It will give us happiness for some time, and then ye dil mange more. We are never satisfied. Why? Because the nature of the material world is such that we can never be satisfied with the pleasures of this world. We always want more. Either we are hankering or we are lamenting. I want more, I want more. Oh, I lost that pleasure. Oh, I lost that pleasure. That's what it is. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body enjoys another spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this very clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Because the Yoga Maya or the Maha Maya, for the conditioned souls, the Maha Maya veils a curtain by which we are not able to see things as they are. We are put into illusion. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. The splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. This shows that without Krishna, we cannot even stay in this material world. Krishna has created this material world. Krishna has given us the sun by which we can be able to see everything. Krishna has given us, the moon, which gives a coolness in the night when the sun is not there. The light is given by the moon, and the fire, digestion fire, which will become in the next few verses. The fire of digestion. Even when we eat palatable foodstuffs, we need the assistance of Krishna to digest such food. Otherwise, constipation, diarrhea, all that. Then we realize, right, the importance of this digestive fire. Otherwise, we take it for granted, right? I am eating, I am digesting, right? But we don't know that this digestive fire is Krishna. Otherwise, so many problems. Okay, I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, right? And Jataragni, it is said, right? The digestive fire. And I join with the air of life, outcoming and outgoing and incoming to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs, that which is licked, sucked, chewed, and swallowed. 4 kinds of foodstuffs that we have. I am seated in everyone's heart. This is a very, very prasiddham, Raje prasiddham, like that. This is a verse which is prasiddham, right? Everyone knows this verse because Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. There are 2 classes of beings, the Kshara and the Akshara, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is Kshara. That means everybody falls. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is Akshara. That means never fall down. They are infallible. Besides these 2, there is the greatest living personality. Who is that? The Supreme Soul, Bhagavan, Lord Shri Krishna himself, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental. See, this particular chapter, Krishna has spoken all the verses. Right? So Krishna is saying, because I am transcendental, beyond the fallible and the infallible, I am the greatest. I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. So it's a fact. It's not that we are over exaggerating. It is a fact. Whoever knows me, Krishna says, as the supreme personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in pure devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one. O sinless one, Arjuna. And it is disclosed now by me to you. Whoever understands this, right? We are all recipients of this transcendental knowledge by Lord Sri Krishna through the medium of Arjuna. So whoever understands this, all of us, if we understand it, we all will become wise and all our endeavors will know perfection. What is perfection? Samsiddhir haritoshanam. When we work for the satisfaction and the pleasure of the Lord, then all of our endeavors will know its perfection. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter number 14, Brahma's prayers to Lord Sri Krishna. Shri Brahmo Vacha. Naumi Dyate Brahmapushe Radidambaraya. Gunjavatam Saparivichara Sanmukhaya. Vanyasraje Kavalavitra Vishana Venu. Lakshma Shri Mridupade Pashupangajaya. Asyapi Deva Vapusho Malanugrahasya. Svecha Mayasya Natubu Mayasya Kopi. Neshe Mahi Kvarasitum Manasantarena. Sakshat Avaiva Kim Muttatma Sukhanubhute. Yani Prayasam Udapasya Namantaiva. Jivanti Sanmukaritam Modiyavartham. Sthani Sthita Shrutigatam Tanuvan Manovir. Ye Prayasho Ajita Pyasitai Strilokyam. Shreha Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Ke Bodalabdaye. Tesham Asau Kleshala Eva Shishyate Nanyantyata Stula Tushavagatinam. Pureha Bhuman Bhavopi Yogina Swadarpiteha Jakarma Labdaya. Vibhudya Bhakteva Katopanitaya Prapedirenjo Chutate Gatim Param. Tatapi Bhuman Mahima Gunasyate Vibhudumarhatya Malantaratmabihi. Abhikriyat Swanubhavada Rupato Hyananya Bodhyat Patayana Chanyatha. Gunatmanastepi Gunan Vimatum Hitavati Yadnasya Kaiksharasya. Kale Nayairvadimita Sukalpair Bhupam Shavake Nikadyubasaha. Tate Nukampam Susamikshmano. Kunjana Evatma Kritam Vipakam. Hridvad Vapurvididada Namaste. Jivetayo Mukti Pade Sadhaya Bhag. Pasheshame Naryamananta Adye. Paratmani Tvai Apimai Mayini. Mayam Vitatye Kshitumatma Vaibhavam. ह्यहं कियानैच विवाचिरग्नौ अतः शमस्वाच्युत मे रजो भुवो ह्यजानतस्त्वत्प्रगीषमानिनः अजावलेपानतमो अन्धचक्षुषा येषो अनुकम्प्यो मयि नाथवानिति वाहं तमो महदहं चराग्निवार्धो संवेष्टितान्तगत सप्तवितस्तिकायः वेदृग्विधादिगणितान्तपराणुचार्य माताद्वरोम विवरस्य च ते महीत्वम् उत्क्षेपणं गर्भगतस्य पादयो किं कल्पते मातुर्दोक्षजागशे किमस्ति नास्ति व्यपदेशभूषितं तवास्ति कुक्षे कियदप्यनन्तः जगत्त्रयान्तो दधि सम्प्लवोदे नारायणस्योदरणाविनालात् विनिर्गतोऽजस्त्वितिवान् न वै मृषा किन्त्वीश्वरत्वन्न विनिर्गतोऽस्मि नारायणस्त्वां न हि सर्वदेहिनाम् आत्मास्यधीश लोकसाक्षी नारायणोऽङ्गं नरभूजलानयात् तच्चापि सत्यं न तवैव माया तच्चेजलस्तं तव सज्जगद्वपुः किं मे न दृष्टं भगवंस्तदैव किं वा सुदृष्टं हृदि मे तदैव किं नो सपद्येव पुनर्व्यदर्शि अत्रैव माया दमनावतारे यस्य प्रपञ्चस्य बहिसुतस्य कृत्स्नस्य चान्तर्जठरे जनन्या मायात्मेव प्रकटीकृतं ते यस्य कुक्षाविदं सर्वं सात्मं भाति यथा तथा तत्त्वयि अपि ह तत्सर्वं किमिदं मायया विना अद्यैव त्वद्रते किं मम अतिमाया त्वम् आदर्शितम् एकोऽसि प्रथमं ततो व्रज सुहृद्वत्सा समस्ता अपि तावन्त्वसि चतुर्भुजा सत् अखिलैः साकं मयोपासिता तावन्त्येव जगन्त्यभूषदमिदं ब्रह्माद्वयं शिष्यते अजानतां त्वत्पदवीमनात्मनि आत्मात्मना भासि विदत्य मायां सृष्ट्वा विवाहं जगतो विधान इव त्वमेषोऽन्त इव त्रिनेत्रः सुरेषु ऋषीरीश तथैव नृष्वपि तिर्याक्षु यदा सुविदे जनस्य जन्मा सतां निग्रहाय जन्मा सतां दुर्मदनिग्रहाय प्रभो विधातः सद् अनुग्रहाय च कोवीति भूमन् भगवन् परात्मन् योगेश्वरोऽतिर्भवतस्त्रिलोक्यां क्व वा कथं वा कति वा कदेति विस्तारयन् क्रीडसि योगमायां तस्मादिदं जगदशेषमसत्स्वरूपं स्वप्नाभवस्तदिशनं दुःखदुःखं त्वय्येव नित्यसुख बोधधनावनन्ते मायादौद्यादपि यत्सद्दिवा भवाति एकस्त्वमात्मपुरुषः पुराणः सत्यस्वयं ज्योतिरनन्त आद्यः नित्यो अक्षरो जस्य शुको निराञ्जनः पूर्णाद्वयो मुक्तोपादितो मृतः एवं विदं त्वां सकलात्मनामपि स्वात्मानमात्मात्मतया विचक्षते पूर्वर्कलब्धोपनिषत्सु चक्षुषा ये ते दरन्तीव भवान् हृदां बुधिम् आत्मानमेवात्मतया विजानतां तेनैव जातं निखिलं प्रपञ्चितम् ज्ञानेन भूयोऽपि च तत् प्रलीयते राज्वा महेर्भोर्भवाभवौ यथा अज्ञानसंज्ञो भवबन्धमोक्षो द्वौ नामान्यो सरत्पिन्याभवात् अजस्रचित्त्यात्मनि केवले परे विचार्यमाणे तरणाविवाहने त्वमात्मानं परं मध्वा परम् आत्मानमेव च आत्मपुनर्बहिर्भृग्य अहोज्ञाजनताज्ञता अन्तर्भवेऽनन्तभवन्तमेव हि तत्यजन्तो मृगयन्ति सन्तः असन्तम् अपि अन्ति अहिमन्तरेण सन्तं गुणं तं किमूयन्ति सन्तः अतापि ते देव पदाम्बुजद्वया प्रसादलेशानुगृहीत एव हि जानाति तत्त्वं भगवान् महिम्नो न चान्ये कोऽपि चिरं विचिन्वन् तदस्तु मे नाथ स भूरिभागो भवेत् रवान्यत्र तु वातिरश्चाम् येनाहमेको विभवज्जनानां भूत्वा निषेध तव पादपल्लवम् अहोति धन्या व्रजगोरमण्यः स्तन्यामृतं गीतमतीव ते मुदा यासां विभो वत्सरतात्मजात्मना यतृप्तये ध्यात्मचालम् अध्वराः अहोभाग्यं नन्दगोपवृषकुशां यन्मित्रं परमानन्दं पूर्णं ब्रह्म सनातनम् येषां तु भाग्यमहिमा अच्युत तावदास्ताम् एकादशैव हि वयं भूरिभागाः एतदृशिकचषकैरसकृत्वभामः शर्वादयो म्लियुदज अमृता समं ते तद्भूरि भाग्यमिह जन्म किमप्यताव्याम् यद्गोकुले विगतमां गिरजोऽभिषेकम् यज्जीवितं तु निखिलं भगवान् मुकुन्द त्वद्यापि यत्पदरजः श्रुतिमृग्यमेव येषां घोषनिवासीनमुद भवान् किं देवरातेति न चेतो विश्वफलात् फलं त्वदपरं पुत्राभिहयन् मुह्यति सद्वेषादिव भूतनापि सकुलात् त्वामेव देवा पिता यद्दामार्गसुहृत्प्रियात्मतनया प्राणाशयास्त्वत्कृते तावद्रागदयस्तेन तावात्कारगृहं गृहं तावान्मुहो गृहगरो यावत् कृष्णते जनाः प्रपञ्चं निष्प्रपञ्चोऽपि वयसि भूतले प्रपन्नजनतानन्द सन्दोहं प्रतितुं प्रभो जानन्त एव जानन्तो किं भक्त्या न मे प्रभो मनसो पुषो वाचो वैभवं तव गोचरः अनुजानीहि मां कृष्ण सर्वं त्वां वेचि सर्वदृक् त्वमेव जगतां नाथो जगते तत्तवार्पितम् श्रीकृष्ण वृष्णिकुलपुष्कर जोषदायीन् क्ष्मानिर्जरद्विज पशुदादिवृत्तिकारीन् उद्धर्म शार्वरः रक्षीति रक्षा सदा राक्षस आकल्पमार्गमर्हन् भगवन् नमस्ते श्रीशुक उवाच इति अभिष्टूय भूमानां त्रिपरिक्रम्य पादयोः नट्वाभीष्टं चिदद्दात स्वाधामा प्रत्यपद्यथा तदोऽनुज्ञाप्य भगवान् स्वभुवं प्रागवस्थितान् वत्सान् पुलीनमानिन्ये यथा पूर्वसकं स्वकम् एकस्मिन्नपि आद्येब्दे प्राणेशं चान्तरात्मनः कृष्णमाया हता राजन् क्षणार्धं मे निरेर्वकाः किं किं न विस्मरन्ति माया मोहितचेतसः यन्मोहितं जगत्सर्वं वीक्ष्णं विस्मृतात्मकं पूजुष्टहृदं कृष्णं स्वागतं तेति रमहसा नैकोऽपि अभोजिकवला एहिता साधु पूज्यताम् ततो हसन् ऋषिकेशो व्यवहृत्य सहार्भकैः दर्शयन् शर्मा जगरं न्यवर्तत वनाद्व्रजाम् बर्हा प्रशूनवनदातु विचित्रिताङ्गः प्रोदामवेणुदलशृङ्गलोत्सवाद्यः वत्सान् गृणन् अनुगगीत पवित्र कीर्तिर् गोपी त्रिगुत्सवऋषि प्रवेशगोष्ठम् अद्यानेन महाव्यालो यशोधानन्दशूनुना अतो विदा वयं च स्मात् इति भाला व्रजे जगुः श्रीराजोवाच ब्रह्मन् परोद्भवे कृष्णे यान् प्रेम कथं भवेत् यो भूतपूर्वश्लोकेषु स्वोद्भवेषु अपि कथ्यताम् श्रीशुक उवाच सर्वेषाम् अपि भूतानां नृपस्वात्मैव वल्लभः इतरे पत्यवित्ताद्यास्तद्वल्लभादेव हि तद्राजेन्द्र यदा स्नेह स्वाकात्मनि देहिनं न तदा ममताला मे पुत्र वित्तगृहादिशो देहात्मवादिनं पुंसामपि राजन्य सत्तमा यदा देह प्रियतमः सता नाम्यनुये च तम् देहोऽपि ममता भक्षेत् तर्हि असौ नात्मवत्प्रियः यज्जिर्यति अपि देहेऽस्मिन् जीविताशा बलीयसे तस्मात् प्रियतमः स्वात्मा सर्वेषामपि देहिनां तदर्थमेव सकलं जगत् एतच्चराचरं कृष्णं येनम् अवेहि त्वम् आत्मानाम् अखिलात्मनां जगद्गीताय सोऽप्यत्र देहि वा भाति मायया वस्तुतो जानतामत्र कृष्णं स्थाष्णु च विष्णु च भगवद्रूपमखिलं नान्यद्वस्ति किञ्चन सर्वेषामपि वस्तूनां भावार्थो भवति स्थितः तस्यापि भगवान् कृष्णः किं मदद्वस्तुरूप्यताम् समाश्रिताये बलपल्लवप्लवम् महत्पदं पुण्ययशो मुरारे भवाम्बुधिर्वत्स परं पदं 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 यद्बुधं न तेषाम् एतत्ते सर्वमाख्यातां यत्पृष्टोऽहं निहत्वया तत्कौमारे हरिकृतां पौगण्डे परिकीर्तितम् एतत् सुहृद्भिश्चरितं मुरारे रघार्धनं शाद्वलजेवनं च व्यक्ते तदद्रूपमजोर्पविष्ट्वं शृण्वन् गृणनेति नरो किलार्थान् एवं विहारै कौमारं जहतुर्व्रजे नीलयानै सेतुबन्धैर्मर्कटोत्प्रणनादिभिः हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So now we sing this beautiful song glorifying the butter thief, praying to the butter thief, to kindly make our heart as soft as butter, so that Krishna would want to come and steal the butter, steal the heart of our, steal our heart, so that our heart becomes as soft as butter, so that Krishna may steal our hearts. Hare Krishna. Minutes. You get lost. Hare Krishna. All right. Sorry for the interruption. Hare Krishna. So we will sing this beautiful song. This song is Braje Prasidham Navanika Choram, glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the butter thief, praying to the Lord to steal our hearts, make our hearts as soft as butter, and then steal our hearts. Right? Everything we dependent on the Lord. The Lord only has to steal our hearts. The Lord only has to make our heart as soft as butter. What we can do, we only can pray to the Lord. We can desire that the Lord steals our hearts. Radhe Prasidam Navanita Choram Gopangananam Jadupuyachoram Anika Janmargita Papa Choram Chorakratanyam Purusham Namam Iratikaya Hridayasya Choram Namambuta Shamala Kanti Choram Padashritanam Chatamaspachoram Auragaganyam Purusham Namam Akinchani Kritya Padashritam Yah Karoti Vikshum Patige Harina Kenapyaho Bhishana Chaura Indra Drishashruto Vana Jagat Prayepi Yadiyanama Priyara Dushesham Kirtasarana Pipapara Acharya Rupo Nanu Chaurayendra Drishta Vana Maya Kadapi Danam Chamanam Cha Tatindriyani Pranam Chadritva Mama Sarvameva Palayase Kudra Tridodya Chora Tvam Bhakti Damna Maya Nirudha Pinnati Goram Yama Pacha Bandam Pinnati Bhimam Bhava Pacha Bandam Chinnati Sarvacha Samasta Bandam Naivatmano Bhakta Kritam Tu Bandam Manmanase Tamatarashi Gode Paragrahe Dukkha Maye Nibada Lavasvahe Chaura Hare Chiraya Vatorya Doshotitame Vadandam Karagrihe Vasasada Hridaye Madiye Madbhakti Pasha Dridavandana Nishalasan Vam Krishna He Pralaya Koti Shatantarepi Sarvasva Chaura Hridayan Nahi Mochayami Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So let's sing this beautiful song Yugalashtakam, glorifying Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Krishna Prema Mayi Radha Radha Prema Mayohadi Jivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Krishnasya Dharinam Radha Radhaya Dravina Dhari Jivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Krishna Pranamayi Radha Radha Pranamayo Hati Jivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Krishna Drava Mayi Radha Radha Drava Mayo Hati Jivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Krishna Gehe Sita Radha Radha Gehe Sito Hari Jivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Krishna Chitta Stitha Radha Radha Chitta Sito Harihi Nivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Neelambardhara Radha Peetambardharo Harihi Nivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Vrindavaneshwari Radha Krishna Vrindavaneshwaraha Vivane Nidane Nityam Radha Krishna Gati Mama Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna. So now let's move on to the study of this book, Perfection of Yoga. So we were seeing in this book, we are on chapter number 4, and we were seeing in this section how the best form of yoga is to connect ourselves with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And that is the and what is required is not to become greater than the greatest or smaller than the smallest, or getting some kind of yoga siddhis, or getting some kind of powder or coins or whatnot. Those are not the ultimate objectives of yoga. The main objective of yoga is to re-establish our connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And in this process, what are we trying to do? We are trying to purify our consciousness and ensure that our mind is not agitated. Like Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, for one who's conquered his mind, the mind is the best of friend. And one who's not conquered his mind, the mind is the worst of enemy. So the yoga process is basically to dovetail our mind in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So let's continue to read. Devotees can raise their hands, and then we will quickly start this. In the execution of yoga, it is very important that the mind is not agitated. From there, we have to read. Okay, Leela Nandini Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Danavats. Yes.
From where I today, Mataji?
In the execution of yoga, it is very important that the mind is not agitated.
Yeah, in the execution of yoga, it is very important that the mind is not agitated. Yada deepo nivadasto rinengete no sopanasmada yogino yada chidasya yunjato yogam atmana. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. Bhagavad Gita 6.19. When a candle is in a windless place, its flame remains straight and does not waver. The mind, like the flame, is susceptible to so many material desires that with the slightest agitation, it will move. A little movement of the mind can change the whole consciousness. Therefore, in India, one seriously practicing yoga traditionally remained brahmachari or celibate.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
so
Krishna.
thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Here Prabhupada is giving the example of a lamp in a windless place, how it does not waver. So the mind of a person who's controlled, right? A person who's controlled his mind will be able to focus on one thing. Otherwise, we are doing multitasking. We are doing this, that, and then hardly we're able to finish anything. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says the same thing. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekaha kurunandanam. Bahushaka yanantascha buddhaya avyavasayinam. Right? For those who are determined, they have this one pointed goal. Like Arjuna, when he was asked, what can you see? Right? When he had gone for this, there are several instances. Once when Dronacharya was actually testing all of his disciples, he asked, he asked all of them, Yudhishthira, Nakula, Sahadeva, Duryodhana, all the Kauravas also. Right? What can you see when doing the shooting practice? What can you see? And then everybody said, I can see the tree, I can see the branch, I can see the bird, I can see the dart, I can, this dart, they play, you have to hit on the center of the dart. Like that, something like that. So they were able to see the tree, the bark, the branches, the stem, the darts, the dartboard, and then they also could. And then Dronacharya said, "You don't shoot the arrow. You come inside. Only when it came to Arjuna, Arjuna said, I'm not able to see the tree. I'm not able to see the branches or the stem or the root or the trunk of the tree. I'm able to see only that center point where I have to shoot my arrow. And then Dronacharya said, now shoot. So that is the focus that is required to complete our task very nicely. And you also know in the Swayamvar, in Draupadi's Swayamvar, how so many people came and tried out to actually pierce the eye of a fish, not by seeing the fish directly, but by seeing the reflection of the fish in the water. That was the challenge. And Arjuna could do it because his mind was completely controlled. He could focus on what he was doing. There was no other thought in his mind. There was nothing else he was seeing except the point of focus. That's what is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Ekaha Kurunandana. Right? Those who are controlled, they have one point of attention. They don't do 3-4 things at a time. So none of them gets completed. Right? One point of attention on one work, what is required to be done. With focus and attention, they complete it. That's what is mentioned here. Now, that kind of attention when somebody has, it is like a lamp in a windless place. It does not keep flickering here and there, but it remains steady. When a candle is in a windless place, what happens? Its flame remains straight. It does not waver. Similarly, the mind is like the flame, and so many material desires come. But yet a person who is a dhira is able to tolerate that and perform his duty. Now, in such a case, what happens? His mind is controlled. And when the mind is controlled, then one can actually engage in the process of yoga. And Prabhupada ends this paragraph by saying what is utmost important? Brahmachari, brahmacharya actually. Brahmacharya means the practice of brahmacharya. It's not restricted only to brahmacharya. Right? The brahmacharya principle is the principle of celibacy. Principle of celibacy means to have the sex life only for the purpose of propagation of only for the propagating Krishna conscious children, or only to have Krishna conscious children. That is, this brahmacharya is as much true for grihastha as much it is true for brahmachari. Right? How it is executed, that is only different. Right? As grihasthas, we are given some amount of leeway, but that also I would say, right, that leeway it is mentioned, but it is greater responsibility. The more the freedom, the more the responsibility. Right? We can utilize our genitals, but we have to utilize it only for the purpose of procreation, creation of Krishna conscious children. That too, the responsibility is very, very high, although the freedom is given. So like that. So Prabhupada goes ahead and talks about the two kinds of brahmacharis. One is a grihastha ashram brahmachari, who's called as a grihastha. Otherwise, he's called a graha medhi. One whose life is centered around sense gratification is called a graha medhi. But what are we? We are all aspiring to become grihasthas. That means we live our life eating, sleeping, mating, and defending for the purpose of keeping our body and soul together for the pleasure of the Lord. We are also brahmacharis in that sense. And second is, of course, the ashram of brahmachari. Okay, so let's hear it from Sindhu Mataji. There are two kinds of brahmachari from there.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
There are two kinds of brahmachari. One is completely celibate and other is grihastha brahmachari. That is to say, he has a wife, he does not associate with any other women, and his relations with his own wife are strictly regulated. In this way, either by complete celibacy or restricted sex life, one's mind is kept from being agitated. Yet when one takes a vow to remain a complete celibate, his mind may still be agitated by sexual desire. Therefore, in India, those practicing the traditional yoga under strict vows of celibacy are not allowed to sit alone, even with a mother, sister, or daughter. The mind is so fickle that the slightest suggestion can create havoc.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So
Thank
this
you.
is what we are. Hare Krishna. So we can see in the example of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he descended, he is Krishna himself, who descended in the form of his own pure devotee, right? Because to teach us what Krishna has told in the Bhagavad Gita, those principles, what Krishna has told in Bhagavad Gita, and what we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, loving exchanges between devotees, and all of that. Chaitanya Krishna himself came to demonstrate those loving exchanges between devotees, to experience the bliss of devotional service that even the Lord cannot experience. Even the Lord was not able to experience the bliss because the Lord thought that Srimati Radharani is experiencing more bliss than himself. So the servitor is deriving more pleasure than the served. And the person who is serving is deriving more pleasure. This is the opposite of the material world, right? In material world, we try to exploit people, we try to use people to get our way done, and we think that is only enjoyment, right? But Krishna himself, he's the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme proprietor of everything. What does he think? He thinks that the servitor is getting more pleasure than me. I am the served. Of course, I'm getting happiness because they are working for my pleasure. But it seems that Srimati Radharani, who's epitome of service, who's the mother of service, of devotional service, she is deriving more pleasure than me. Hence, the Lord only decided to come in the form of his own devotee. And in this way, the Lord wanted to experience the bliss of devotional service, like that. So, why was I coming to this? The mind is okay. Why did I come to this point? Yeah. So our real bliss is not in sense gratification, but our real bliss is. Right, we were also talking about that. What is that? This thing was done, right? Marshmallows experiment was done, where you control your senses for some higher pleasure. Param drishtva nivartate. Right? We control our senses, not to dabav, or not to control our emotions. Not for that, but we regulate our senses to experience a higher taste. Right? We all used to like to sleep till 8 o'clock in the morning, but now we are waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why are we doing this? Because we are experiencing a higher pleasure in doing this, and we know that our destination will be much more blissful. So this is a little bit of sacrifice what we are doing in order to attain higher pleasure of going back home, back to Godhead. So because of that, that is why here it is said, the mind is so fickle, the slightest suggestion can create havoc. It may be very difficult to practice this kind of celibacy, right? Even within Grihastha life, right? The husband and wife, they engage in sex only for procreation of Krishna conscious children, right? Difficult thing to practice, but for a higher purpose, right? When we get a higher taste, then all of these lower things can be automatically given up, like that. Okay, so it is all about abhyasa, practice, training, like that. Okay, now Kishori Mataji, go ahead. The yogi should have his mind trained in such a way from there.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you, Dandat Pranam. The yogi should have his mind trained in such a way that as soon as his mind wanders from meditation on Vishnu, he drags it back again. This requires a great deal of practice. One must come to know that his real happiness is in experiencing the pleasure of his transcendental senses, or not the material senses. Senses are not to be sacrificed, and desires are not to be sacrificed, but there are both desires and sense satisfaction in the spiritual sphere. Real happiness is transcendental to material visual experience. If one is not sensual experience, if one is not convinced of this, he will surely be agitated and will fall down. One should therefore know that the happiness he is trying to derive from material sense is not really happiness. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandatanam. Thank you.
Yeah. So what is real happiness, right? We were talking about that samosa, isn't it? Today is not Ekadashi, thankfully. Okay. So we're talking about that samosa example, right? Somebody say in the 8th standard or 10th standard or 9th standard, whatever class, right? Is relishing a very nice, or even a grown-up adult, right? Enjoying a very nice, delicious samosa. Wow, aromatic and delicious and hot. Nice samosa, I'm relishing it. But I get some bad news, right? I've not got an increment this year, or there is some or a student has failed in the exam. So what happens? The same delicious hot samosa is in the hand, but I cannot relish it anymore. Why? Because the physical pleasure above that is the mental pleasure. That my mind is agitated, none of the physical things can excite me, because my mind is a higher platform than the physical level, right? And above the mind is the intelligence, right? Intelligence means the brahmanas, we have said it's conditioned by knowledge and happiness, right? At the intellectual level, right, we are very, very happy when our books get published, when we are able to write or gain recognition for our intelligence, when we win some competition like that, then our intelligence is stimulated. We feel that, oh, I'm capable of doing that. That gives us a certain level of happiness, and that is at the intellectual level. But even higher than this intellectual happiness is the happiness of the soul, right? I am the spirit soul. How can I derive bliss? I can derive bliss only by service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? That Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, Annamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, Jnanamaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, and Anandamaya Kosh, right? At the soul level, it is Anandamaya Kosh, right? We are all Anandamaya Abhyasa. You want to practice. How can I get happiness? That's why we do anything what we do. Why we do it? Because I am in need of happiness. I want happiness, right? That's why we do certain things. This Annamaya Kosh is at the samosa level, the physical level, physical pleasure, right? And then at a mind level is Manomaya Kosh. And then this knowledge level is Jnanamaya Kosh. And then there is Vijnanamaya Kosh. That means at a wisdom level. And then finally, the ultimate pleasure, which is eternal, is only at the level of the soul, which is Anandamaya Kosh. That means the bliss that is derived by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? When the Lord is pleased, all of his parts and parcels are also pleased. Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are Amshas of the Lord. When the Lord is pleased, then we are automatically pleased. All right. So let's continue. We have about 3-4 minutes. Karpadoli Mataji will end with you. Please read. Those who are actually yogis truly enjoy, but how do they enjoy? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandatana Mataji. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna, Dandavats.
Those who are actually yogis truly enjoy, but how do they enjoy? Ramaneti Yogino
Ramante Yogino Nante.
Ramante Yogino Nante. Their enjoyment is unlimited. That unlimited enjoyment is real happiness, and such happiness is spiritual, not material. This is the real meaning of Rama, and as in the chant, Hare Rama, Hare Rama means enjoyment through spiritual life. Spiritual life
Hare
is all
Krishna.
joy.
Haribol. Thank you. So we'll end here.
Thanks.
Very, very beautiful. On this note, let's end here. What does Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare means? Right? Oh Supreme Lord Krishna, oh most attractive Krishna, oh Supreme Mother of devotional service, Srimati Radharani, oh internal pleasure potency of the Lord, Srimati Radharani, oh the pleasure giving Lord, Rama, Ramante Yogino Nante, right? One who gives pleasure, one who feels pleasure, one is always in bliss. That is our Sita Ram. I can also refer some places to Balaram, and in some places Prabhupada also refers to Radha Raman, one who gives pleasure to Srimati Radharani. So in this way, when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this can be our consciousness. O Supreme Lord, O most attractive Krishna, O pleasure potency of the Lord Srimati Radharani, O Divine Mother Srimati Radharani, O Balaram, O Shri Sitaram, O Shri Radha Raman, please engage me in your service. Because when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, then the blissful Lord can also grant us bliss. And that bliss will be eternal. All other happiness of this material world are farce, are illusion, are temporary, and are not worth taking shelter of. What is the only thing that is worth taking shelter of? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Ananta Kochi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. So today is 2 o'clock Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So today is a wonderful day. A lot of service opportunities. So if devotees are free, you may join in at 2 o'clock for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita session. So with this, we will conclude for today. Of course, we have to do Harinam Sankirtan. No session is complete. If it's a physical program, it is not complete without prasadam, right? And if it's online sessions, cannot be complete without Harinam Sankirtan. This is the food for the soul, right? Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Sudarshan, Jaya Balagopal, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Gurudev, Gurudev, Nitai, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Sadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kaliuga Patita Pavan Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Shri Harinama Sankirtan ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So everyone can unmute themselves now. And let us have darshan of all the wonderful Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. We are having our dear Shobha Mataji, Ritu Parna Mataji, Kali Mataji, Ramya Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Sridhar Prabhu, Isha Mataji, Sudha Mataji, Archana Mataji, Nav Kishori Mataji, and all the wonderful devotees. Thank you very much for joining us. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Devacha, Patitanam Pavane, Sindhakoti Vaishnava.
Vaishnavavrinda ki jai.
Gurudev ki
Jai.
jai. Nande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Mataji.
Thank you. Link I'll share the YouTube link. Maybe at 3 o'clock, I'll share the link of all the 4 sessions that have happened since morning. Brahma Murta Japa session. And then we had, what did we have? We had Brahma Samhita session. And then we are having now our PUrushotam adhik maas special session. And then Chaitanya Charitamrita session. All the 4 sessions. YouTube link I'll post it, say by 5 o'clock today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you.